Hello friends, welcome back to my little farm kitchen. I'm Chrissy and this is 9 Little Aussies. Today in my kitchen we are going to make some pumpkin scones. Gracie and I are here together today. All the boys have gone out doing various different things, so we're going to do some baking. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is cook our pumpkin. Now I believe this here is called a butternut squash. We would call it a butternut pumpkin, and any kind of pumpkin will do. Really what we need is I just need to cook about a cup or two of pumpkin so that it's nice and soft and we mash it down. So really any kind of pumpkin will work, I think. Any pumpkin I'm familiar with. Definitely any pumpkin in Australia works. So the Queensland Blue. Someone said the other day, and you're correct, Jarrahdale is another name for, was it another name for Kent, I think? Anyway, they go by different names, but any of those will be fine. And I imagine any pie pumpkin here would be fine because we're just smashing it up. And the issue I find comparing pumpkins here with Australia is usually to do with texture. Whereas in this recipe, it's just being mashed up and added to a scone. So it's fine if it's all mushy. So I'm gonna cook this up first, and then we will make our scones. All right, so I have just peeled and diced up some of that pumpkin, and I've only used, you can see I've only used the end part that has all the seeds that I'm giving to the chookies. So scrape the seeds out and cut it up and putting it, I mean you could steam it, you could boil it, it wouldn't matter, and then we're just gonna mash it. So I'll probably add a little bit of water and we'll boil it. All right, so I'm just gonna boil that for a bit until it becomes nice and tender. Just got it on high. Okay, while the pumpkin is cooking, I just wanted to take a little minute to acknowledge and say thank you to some beautiful people who very unexpectedly sent me some lovely gifts. This here, watch out darling, beautiful egg holder, look at it. Came in the mail. Now we have a crazy number of eggs right now, but it is so nice to have them in that instead of those cardboard cartons that I was having to hold them in. So thank you. I believe Emmy Livingston sent that, which is so sweet. And she also sent these blue pots, which I will be definitely using. So thank you, Emmy. And what I found very overwhelming, I really was, the day, because what ended up happening is I'm borrowing our friend's P.O. box because I don't have one and I don't really fancy giving out my personal address to the big wide internet world. But a few people had asked, so he was happy for us to use his P.O. box, which is wonderful. But everything came on the one day. So I was expecting some elderberry cuttings because a lady had texted me or emailed me, I think. No, oh, it was on Instagram, that's where it was. Had messaged me about that. So I was kind of keeping my eye out for it because I was like, oh, I don't want them to dry out. I don't want to miss when they get here. So they came, but then all this other stuff came. I was like, what? Why? How? Why would people, they don't even know me, and just so overwhelmed with the generosity and the kindness. So I just want to say thank you to a few people. So Emmy Livingston, thank you so much. I love the egg holder. And then, now not everyone that sent something had a name on it, so I can't actually say thank you to, you know who you are, and I really do want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Someone sent these beautiful mason jars that are just the right size for jam, and just happened to arrive the day we were going over to our friend's property to pick dewberries. And I've got bags of dewberries in the freezer, which I'll be making into jam. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. I didn't have any of the little pint-sized jars for jam. So thank you, whoever sent that. That is beautiful. Now this lady, her name was on it, so I can say thank you so much to Dawn Newstead, who sent these mason jars. And I just, like, I kept taking another thing out of the box and another thing, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That's all I could say to my husband. He's like, what? And I'm like, oh my goodness. This lady has sent so much stuff. Quite overwhelming. So there's a little canning kit and a candle. It smells really nice. Obviously, she was listening when I said I love candles. And a hand mixer, a KitchenAid, and some, you know, these drying airing racks for baking, which, you know, I think something that really touched me is I was like, man, people were really listening. Like, they saw that I didn't have that. And I think I made some offhand comment about, oh, I have to get those again. It's just amazing to me. I'm just speechless, honestly. And then the other one was this lovely lady, Leanne Engezeth. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Sent me some wire whisks, 2 different sizes, and these spatulas, which will be very handy, and some measuring cups, stainless steel measuring cups. And then I don't know, someone sent me this. It just, honestly, it was a week where, to be quite frank with you, it had been a tough week with just different things that we were juggling and trying to handle. And you be careful with that, don't drop it. And all these packages that just happened to arrive on the same day was just like a warm hug from the Lord. It was like, no, I've got you. It's okay. It's like, oh my goodness. It was really beautiful. So thank you. And this one I shall be using today. Again, someone listening, paying attention to details, that sent me a little hand sifter. Because I think I mentioned that I wished now I'd have put it in my suitcase. And today we will need it for the pumpkin scones. So thank you, whoever you are who sent this. What a blessing. I just want to say thank you. Huge, big, heartfelt thank you from us, from me and my family to you who, you know, so many viewers have been so kind and encouraging and made us feel so welcome in this online space. And then to have this tangible kind of outpouring of that, it just truly, it just overwhelmed me, and I am so grateful. Thank you. Okay, so we're just taking out enough pumpkin to be about 1 cup of pumpkin and mashing it gently with a fork. Good girl. Okay, so there's our mashed pumpkin, roughly a cup. So we want that to cool down just a wee bit. Also, just to note, we're preheating the oven we want a hot oven, which is anywhere from 400 to 450 Fahrenheit, 200 to 220 Celsius. So that's heating up while we get the scones ready. Okay, so the basic recipe I'm using and following kind of is out of my trusty CWA cookbook. And it's really just, so whenever you're making a scone, it's really close in process, the way you do it, to making American Southern biscuits. But usually scones are eaten as a sweet. This is slightly savory. Usually the traditional way to have scones is with jam and cream. This is a pumpkin scone, which is very common, very popular in Australia, and we just love it served with lashings of butter when it's straight hot out of the oven. So the first thing we're going to do, and this is a bit different to regular scones where you would dice cold butter and rub it into the flour mixture, but with the pumpkin scones we're going to cream together the butter and sugar and mix in the pumpkin puree before we go to the next step. About a tablespoon of butter. Now we need half a cup of sugar. You want to hold this, that's the full cup, so we'll use it for the flour. Over the bowl, honey, over the bowl. clumping a bit. This is just raw sugar we're using. All right, we're gonna tip it in. Tip it in. Well, it is quite a bit actually. For scones, it's quite a bit because scones are usually a little bit sweet, but not too sweet. And you really top them with the sweet things like the jam. And have got mixing. Okay, so we've creamed together the butter and the sugar. So it's just kind of all evenly mixed. You want to pop the pumpkin in, Gracie? Put the pumpkin in. It doesn't want to come out, huh? Maybe scrape it out with the spoon. That's it. Not all of it. I just wanted to point out that sometimes this stringy bit, see how that, I don't know if you can see, the stringy bit from inside the pumpkin when you scoop the seeds out. I scooped most of it out and it just doesn't puree as well as the rest. So I'm just going to pull out any bits of stringy bits that are from the center of the pumpkin. All right, so the pumpkin is still a bit warm, so it's kind of melted the butter a tiny bit, just not really melted, but loosened it up. And we've got out those stringy bits. Okay, so Grace is just going to add an egg into the mix. Oops, good girl. Give me the shell. Okay, so we've mixed in our egg now, and we're just going to sift in 3 cups of flour and 2 teaspoons of baking powder. It says this holds 5 cups. We're just going to sift it in lightly. Thanks to our lovely friend who sent us this. Good girl. I think we'll just do 2 at a time. Maybe it was a 3 cup threshold. Good girl. Are your hands getting sore? So I'm using this baking powder. I got it on Azure Standard because I could not find a baking powder without nasty ingredients in the supermarket. But this one looks pretty good. Yeah, I'll put in 2 teaspoons of this and then we'll add the 3rd cup. All right, ready? Good girl. I'm gonna add a tiny bit more. A good measure. So I was just explaining to Gracie, we're going to just fold this in gently with a knife rather than mix it with a wooden spoon or be too aggressive with it, because you don't want to overmix scones or they won't rise nicely. So it's just a little balance of getting it thoroughly mixed but not overworking the dough. Kind of just cut through. You have a little bit of a go and then Mummy will do it. Yeah. So what you do is you hold the knife and we're just going to cut through like this. And you do have to turn it a little bit, but you don't, it's not like a wooden spoon where you're trying to really mix it hard.
You can
see the pumpkin starting to come through? Mm-hmm.
You can feel it.
Mm-hmm. We want to keep the flour nice and light and fluffy. I don't know if you can hear the banging in the background, but the boys have come home, some of them, and they're playing darts down in the end room. That's what that banging is. So we just want it to come together without overdoing it. Starting to do that now. So here is what our dough is looking like. Now, it does say in the recipe, if it's too stiff, then add just a little bit of milk, which I think we need to do right now. I'm only going to put a very small amount in because I don't want to make it too wet, and we'll see if that's enough. I really just want it to come together and sort of hold together a bit, and enough so that we can put it out on the bench and cut it into scones. Now we could, you could add a little bit more pumpkin, but the problem with that is the pumpkins, if you have too much pumpkin, it'll be too heavy and it won't be as fluffy, I guess, is what'll happen. Still would work. Okay, you can see this is coming together to form a dough now, but it's not super, what's the right way to say it? It's not really mixed thoroughly. There are still little tiny bits of flour that aren't mixed in. That's okay. So we're going to put it out on a lightly floured surface, not too much flour, and cut it into scones. All right, so I'm just going to very lightly flour that and pop it out on the, it came out in one lot, which is kind of good. All right, so we're going to press it down to form a round. Now I'm going to use, this is just an old jar that's approximately the right size I'm looking for. You could also use a mason jar lid, or if you have scone cutters or Bicky cutters, shape those circle ring things you can get. I don't have any at the moment, but this will work just fine. I'm just going to flour it so that it doesn't stick. I guess that's about an inch thick. I'm going to flour this just by sticking it in the bag of flour and bring out. I'm just going to cook it in this, which is a, I guess it's a pie dish or a casserole dish, but a round one. And it helps if you have something with sides, but you don't have to. Just going to ease those out of there. And we will, let's see, put them all over here, and then I'll rework the dough just a little bit to use the last of it. Now they're not supposed to look all even. You can see this one, it's got little line there and there where it's not all worked in. That's perfectly fine. All right, so I'm just going to bring these leftover bits together into another rough round, and you can see it's quite rough. I don't want to overwork the dough. I'm going to flour that again. Shove it in the bag of flour so it's nice and coated, and that just stops it sticking. See, that was better. All right, I'll pop those feathers in there. And again, we'll just bring that together to form a rough. Now these last ones won't be as good, but that's okay, they'll still work. So I reckon we might get 2 more roughly out of that. And I know Gracie's been waiting for some dough, so I'm going to leave her that little bit. And that's kind of a weird looking last scone. Sometimes that it'll work just fine. Kind of in a scone shape, kind of the right size. All right, so I'm going to just scoot these guys over a little and fit that last one in. Okay, so there are our scones ready to go in the oven. So we're going to pop them in. I've got it at 425, and I'll pop them in just till they're golden kind of looking on top, which I would imagine will be somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes. I haven't made scones in this oven before, and it really does depend a little bit on your oven. So we will see. think I'll set the timer for 10 minutes. Okay, we just pulled these out of the oven. They're slightly brown and goldeny on top, and when you tap them they sound just a wee bit hollow, don't they? That's it.
I feel hollow too.
Yeah. So we're going to leave them there for a little minute to cool very slightly. And I should have mentioned I did give it an extra 5 minutes. So in my oven it took 15 minutes. All right, so it's been just a few minutes of letting it cool slightly. I'm going to ease one of these little guys out. And we'll cut him open and taste him. Do a taste test. What do you reckon, Gracie?
Yeah, I reckon it's gonna be delicious.
I reckon it's going to be delicious. Put some
Butter on it.
very thick, yummy butter. Got to have lots of butter.
Oh, butter on mine.
There you go, you want to taste him? And I will taste this little one.
No, butter.
Is that good?
Mm-hmm.
Thumbs up or thumbs down? Now all we need is a pot of tea. Yummy pumpkin scones. So thank you for coming along with us in our little kitchen to make some pumpkin scones. I hope you'll try them and let me know what you think.